What's up, everyone? Welcome to Rogue Revolution Episode 3. This week, we're back to OP13 with the mono green leader that's always been on the fringe of playability, but never quite found her footing in the meta. Well, maybe this format's the one, and if it is, we're about to find out. No, I'm not talking about Bonnie. I'm, of course, referring to Carrot. So, for those unaware, Carrot is a mono-green 5-life leader with the Minx trait that comes with one special ability. While she has a Minx character in play, you can rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. And, well, that's all that comes on the leader card. None too impressive until you begin to look at some of her support cards that require a Minx leader. Namely, there's a stage that restands one Dawn each turn, as well as one Minx character at the end of your turn. And well, I guess that's it as far as the unique cards that only she can use goes, but technically there's also a 1-drop that pops a 2-cost on play, and a 5-cost that can stun 2 cost 5 or lower rested characters on your opponent's board on play, but both of those are not particularly powerful and didn't really make it into my final build for the deck. So you may be wondering, what advantages does Carrot actually bring to the table for the current metagame? Well, in addition to resting her opponent's cards, her primary card, the 5-cost Carrot, can stun the cards that are rested when played as well as when attacking. This allows you to mitigate the threats on the board without actually having to KO the opponent's characters. Can you think of any characters prevalent in the current meta that you would want to get out of the way without KOing them? Well, not only that, but the aforementioned stage giving an extra Dawn each turn really is significant, especially in the 10 Dawn turns. It allows you to play your 10-cost character and still have a Dawn to allocate for a slightly larger swing, or play a Searcher to find another 10-cost for the next turn. Or you could play 2 5-cost characters and still get a 6k with the leader swing. Minor advantages to be sure, but they can really add up over the course of a game. Lastly, with the addition of the Supernovas to her archetype, her deck can now run 16 total Searchers. This allows you to consistently hit your pieces on time, as well as guaranteeing 1 or 2 of them are on the board by the time 6 Dawn rolls around, and you can bounce them back with a new 6-drop Law for later use. Carrot's old problems still linger with her, of course. Needing to have a Mink on the field for leader effect means that you won't always be able to use it. It's slightly easier these days than it used to be to keep leader effect up, but realistically, there's only 12 low-cost Minks in the deck to turn it on, and so there will be times you simply don't have one available. There's also no built-in protection for her board, so your board is susceptible to pretty much every type of removal under the sun. In the current meta, removal is at an all-time low because of the highly meta deck that resists almost all removal effects, but there's at least a couple of threats still played by both Ace and Emu to get rid of our boards. Lastly, and this was a problem I didn't anticipate running into, but really is kind of annoying, there's no counter events for Minx, and the ones that exist for Supernovas really just aren't very useful for Carrot. I mean, it'd be really nice if we could play Dead Man's Game, but it's not a Supernova card, it's only Straw Hat. And so the best we're left with is Elephant Gatling, but that kind of just does what our leader effect does already. So basically I just ended up deciding not to play counter events in this build, though maybe there's one I simply overlooked. Well, that's the overview for the leader out of the way. Let's get into the card by card. Starting things off is the Minx package. Every Carrot deck has to have one because without it, you really just can't use the leader effect. So there's the standard Searcher in Wanda to grab any Minx other than itself. The primary target for this is of course going to be our other Minx Searcher, which is Carrot. Carrot doubles as both a 2k counter card and a Searcher for the all-important stage card, Zo. Not only that, but it also puts the Zo into play after searching it, even if you whiff, as long as you had it in hand to start. This stage is of course really fantastic. As soon as you get it in play, you can start using it to get a Dawn back each turn, and additionally at the end of the turn, you can restand one of your Minx characters to prevent it from being attacked into. Now, of course, there's also some 2k counter cards to search, the first being Milky. This card can allow you to activate leader effect in a pinch, and it only costs 1 Dawn to boot since it does have the effect to rest itself to give you a Dawn back, and so as long as it sticks around, and you have the Zo in play, you are effectively getting back 2 extra Dawn a turn. And additionally, Zo does pseudo-protect it by restanding it at the end of your turn. It's a bit of a fringe effect, but it's better than not being able to use your leader effect at all. And then, of course, there's the 5 cost carrot. She's mostly just here as another 2k, but it is a 5 cost character, which is relevant for specifically the 6 cost Trafalgar Law, which we'll get into later. And so you might as well play it over any other 2k, as none of the other 2ks are 5 cost characters. Next is arguably the best card in the archetype, Carrot, the 5 cost card. She does stun something on play and then when attacking, and additionally will be able to be restood by Zo so that she's not easily swung into. This is an extremely high value card that accrues value every single turn that she sticks around. Lastly, there's the big drop in our deck, Law and Beppo. This card is fantastic right now, stunning any character while also making our leader a 7k until the start of the next turn. It makes it a big threat that nearly guarantees that we're going to be able to survive to our turn after, and then if you can manage to chain another one down and then another one down, you can steadily chip away at your opponent while stunning their board. Both against Emu and Ace, this card is great, and it buys us a couple of extra crucial turns so that we can slowly topple their defenses. Moving on from the Minx, we have the Supernovas. So there's of course the Bonnie Searcher, which acts as a pseudo blocker because due to our leader effect we are able to rest and then swing into enemy searchers in the early game, which will prevent them from trading into our Bonnie Searcher, and it forces them to make a real swing into the Bonnie Searcher if they do want to clear it. And in addition to the Bonnie, of course, we have the Kid Killer Searcher. So 2 searchers for the Supernovas, and unlike the Minx Searcher, they can search themselves. Very useful effect. Other than themselves, our targets for the searches are of course the classic Freeze Bonnie, which can target any rested character or the opponent's Dawn to stun, and when going first against Ace, this is a godsend to have because it does delay their ability to play the 8 cost event for a full turn. You keep them on 7 when they should be on 8. Even afterward, you can also use this effect to deny their Gold Roger turn at any point so that you can still utilize your blockers even if they have 0 life left. There's also the OP12 Blocker Bonnie, which is important for sifting any extra copies of Zo or just other non-counter cards out of our hand, while also keeping the hand size healthy. Additionally, setting the Dawn active again is oftentimes actually very useful because you combine it with the Zo to get 2 total Dawn back, and then you can play a Searcher or just allocate those Dawn to your characters for bigger swings. There's also the 6 cost Law, the new best generic card in green, in my opinion. This guy is a 6k that bounces a friendly character back to hand and then plays a 5 cost character from your hand. Rested, of course. This card does enable the deck in a lot of ways, so in the past, one of the big issues with Carrot was that once we played our searchers, there really wasn't anything else to do with them. I mean, sure, Carrot and Wanda both count as a mink on the board for your leader effect, but there really wasn't much else that they were doing. Not to mention, sometimes your searcher would just whiff, and then you didn't get the Zo, and you minused a card out of your hand, and you had a character in play that just doesn't really do anything. It was a really bad situation. With the Law, though, you can now bounce that carrot back to your hand, play a 5 cost from hand, and then try again with the carrot to try to get the Zo in play. It boosts the consistency with which you get to your Zo by a huge margin. Now, I'm very impressed with the way that this card performs in this deck, and it's actually exactly what the deck was missing. Lastly, of course, we also do have the Law and Beppo to search. That's right, they're both a Minx and a Supernova card, so 12 of our searchers can find this card, which is very important because, of course, this is our endgame plan. It's really the only top end that we're playing. Now, you might have noticed that there's no Supernova 2Ks in this list, and there's a good reason for that. Basically, I've kept it to 24 searchable Supernovas and 20 searchable Minx. I'm really trying to make sure that both searchers are able to hit a target every single time that they search, and to do that, you really do need a good split. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of very good Minx cards outside of the 2Ks, and so there just wasn't enough room to play Supernova 2Ks. And so with those 48 cards, that just leaves 2 slots. After a lot of tinkering and tuning, I did finally decide on Hody Jones as the best fit for those last 2 slots. It's a great card to help close the game out. He can rest blockers, he can rest Dawn. It's very relevant for this meta in which a lot of decks like to sit on blockers and leave Dawn up. Like, it's almost never been a better meta for Hody Jones. Now, disclaimer, in my initial build of this deck, I had included 4 Tashigi to help mitigate the threat of removal, and these were in place of the Hody Jones and 2 of the 5-cost 2k counter carrots. However, it didn't ever really feel like they were impacting the game that much, outside of specifically when I had to go first against Emu. And so, while they are cut in my current list, that wasn't the case when I was playing the games, which I'm going to be showing you in a minute, and so you may see a Tashigi hit the board or be in my hand, but that's just because it was an early version of the deck. The game plan remains mostly the same whether you have a Tashigi or don't have the Tashigi. It's just now we have a little bit of extra oomph in the last turn of the game to try to close it out with our Hody Jones. So, with that out of the way, here's the deck list in full. And with that, let's get into the games. So the first game is going to be up against the red-blue ace deck, and unfortunately they do win the die roll. Not a big deal though, we do have counterplay even while going first into this deck, so we do get to just start off with the Searcher, and we are looking at our Zo Searcher for turn 2. He's going to go ahead and just draw 2, discard 1, but fortunately we can clear out his Otama with our Searcher thanks to our leader effect. This can be good because it denies them from being able to get a free Jozu target. He'll have to play more small bodies if he wants to make that happen. And then we could just go ahead and swing 8 into his 6. This is not necessarily a forced take, but it feels bad for him to discard 2 so early, and he does still get to draw 2 since he had a Dawn equipped to the leader, so he'll just go ahead and take that one, draw the 2. From here, we're expecting a Marco to come down, but instead he does just play another Searcher into another Searcher. So he is poised to get a Jozu to come down on his following turn. Now, fortunately, we do have an answer to that as well in our 5-cost Bonnie. We could play the 5-cost Carrot as well and just accept the fact that it'll go back to our hand, but I decided to go for a more tempo-oriented play, and this is really good if he doesn't have a Marco or Yamato to follow up, as he won't be able to do too much, but he does show that he does have a Yamato. So we go ahead and just take his other Searcher off the board. I do think that he has a Jozu in hand, so I just want to make sure that if he is going to have to bounce a body, it's going to have to be something more substantial, or it's going to be his whole turn and he'll only be able to swing 6s, which we can easily defend with the 2 2Ks that we have in our hand right now. From here, though, I am going to go ahead and search for another Bonnie. Fortunately, I do find it just to deny his 8 Dawn play. Otherwise, I was going to have to bounce the Bonnie that we currently have in play back to the hand so that I could play it again with the Law. But this way, we can just establish 2 more 6K bodies to make 3 total, and also get our 2K from the field back to boot. Unfortunately, it does mean our leader's not really doing anything this turn, but that's okay. I would take a 6K in play over a 5K... well, a 6K leader swing any day. And so he does just swing a 6K. We can give him a card for that. From here, he goes ahead and swings a 7. So if he does have a Jozu at this point, he is going to have to get rid of his Yamato. But instead, he drops a unique card, which I have seen popping up in a few lists, I guess, to help combat the Emu decks, which is this 6-cost 8K double attacker, which resists being removed 1 time per turn. It's kind of an interesting card, as it does put a lot of pressure, especially since we don't actually have a blocker in play right now, since we are still at 2 life remaining. Unfortunately, this Law doesn't become a blocker until we are down to 1, so I just go ahead and decide to swing him out, and we have another one in hand to play anyway, so we'll just go ahead and bounce one of our Searchers back to hand and freeze this Yamato. And we have a bunch of Dawns, so we'll go ahead and swing 9. We don't want to get rid of any of our 6Ks in play. We do want to use one of our Law in this case to block, just because we do have the Law Beppo to come down on the turn after. He does go 10 here, and I decide to just take it. Turns our Law blocker on, and we'll just go ahead and give him the block regardless of how much he swings, because again, we are just going to be freezing this Whitebeard. So this is why this deck, I think, is pretty favorable into the ace deck, because we can make a play like this where he pays for his 10 drop, but then our 10 drop completely takes it out of the equation for not just this turn, but the next turn as well. He won't be able to block with it for 2 full turns. And so from here, the opponent is under a lot of pressure to end the game. If he does have the Gold Roger, which he does, then his 2 6k bodies won't be able to swing, so we just have to give him 7k counter in total, and we can walk with that one. And so in game 2 here, we're up against Zoro. Fortunately, we do win the die roll, so we go ahead and go second. We do have 2 Supernova Searchers in hand and draw into our second stage. Unfortunate for us, but we'll see if we can use this Bonnie to discard it. I am reluctant to pitch the Bonnie because I do want to discard it or discard the Zo with it, and so I do just take a 5k swing. That may have been ill-advised considering we are into Zoro, but from here we can just go ahead and establish stage, use the effect, get back a Dawn so we can play our 2-cost Searcher. We'll go ahead and grab another Bonnie, but this one is probably just going to be counter power because we do have the better Bonnie in hand already. From here, our opponent goes ahead and plays a Searcher, digs for a restand event actually, and so he just goes 5, we'll give him the Bonnie, and he'll go 6, saying he's probably going to swing 6 again. I do counter the first one and then take the second. With our Searchers, we can contest his, though, and then we can use our Law to get the Bonnie in play, get 2 6-cost characters in play, discard this Zo, restand 2 Dawn. I decide to just go ahead and swing a 5 into his 4k rested, so that we do have enough Dawn to still play a Searcher. We could have swung 6 to pretty much guarantee the kill, or like force him to give the block with his Koshiro, but instead I just make it pretty non-committal so that I can get a Bonnie into play, which ends up being a pseudo blocker anyway, so it's kind of like it drew us 2 cards in that sense. Then he goes 8 into our 6, so I'll just give him 2 cards to keep it alive. We do want to keep our board presence up. From here, the name of the game is just going to be to spam more of these 6-drop Laws into play, as in the later stages of the game, which we're getting to, they're going to start becoming blockers, and while they're in play, we can just start swinging 6s at him all day, which is what we're going to do now. And so I do decide here for a bit if I want to just allocate Dawn to like make bigger swings, or if I want to get another search involved. Honestly, we have most of what we're going to need in hand already. Even so, though, I do decide to, instead of allocating Dawn to attacks, get another search in. I'm going to go ahead and bounce this Kid Killer back and play it to grab another Kid Killer. Honestly, I know that there's no 2k Supernova counter cards in this deck, so I probably should have gotten back the Minx Searcher. Would have been a little bit better, and it would have let us swing 6 again with lead, but, well, thought about that after the fact. So he just goes again 8 into our character here, and then 7 into our face. We do have to take that one, and then we will take the 8. We're kind of daring him at this point to use all of his Dawn with his restand event, but he doesn't. He goes ahead and just blockers up, decides to go for another turn, establishes another body, and I don't really feel that comfortable with going for it here, and so my plan was to use the 10 drop to become a 7k leader for turn and sit behind a few blockers, because we do have a decent amount of counter in hand, but I make a mistake here of swinging into the rested character. Law Beppo needs to have 2 enemy rested characters in play to give you the plus 7k, and I realized that after the fact, and so I have to change the game plan up a little bit. Instead, I'll just swing out with my carrot and my leader in order to get a few cards out or his life, and then I'm just going to block her up with another Law plus the draw 2 discard 1 Bonnie to get one of our bricks out, and then we'll just sit on a bunch of bodies. And I'm pretty comfortable to do so, because if we just sit behind 4 blockers, there's no way that he's going to be able to break through, even if he has double restand event. Like, the best he's going to be able to put together is something like 5, 5, 7, 9, 9, 9, 9. And so if we just block the first few swings and then block her out of the next few, I mean, he's down to 1 life already, so we're almost certainly going to be able to kill him on the crackback, even if we can only keep 1 body remaining in play. So yeah, here we go. We're just going to go ahead and deploy our Law, bounce back a carrot to hand, and then put a Bonnie into play, and draw 2, discard one of the no counter cards in our hand. We'll restand a bunch of Dawn, but you and I both know we have no counter events. He doesn't know that, though, so we'll just leave the Dawn up. We don't have anything to do with it anyway. I was a little bit tempted to go for game on that last turn. I could have just Dawned up our last 3 swings, because if they all connect, we do win, but I'd be a little bit more conservative, even though he did end up using his Luffy will be the king of the pirates as a trigger. I don't want to risk it because I think I have a winning hand here. So he goes 5, 5, and then 7. We counter out of them all, and he just scoops them up. That just leaves the last game, which is going to be up against Emu here, the third Titan of the format. We do open a hand with, unfortunately, no Searcher when going first. Not a big deal, though. We do at least have Stage for our 3 Dawn turn, and so we're just going to go ahead and play that without using our Carrot Searcher. We maintain the 2k in hand, and we can go ahead and drop one of our 5-cost cards on the next turn. And so he's just going to go ahead and block her up, swing a 5. From here, I do go ahead and play the carrot just so that I can rest the blocker. I don't want to give him extra cards, and so I do need the mink, obviously, to get that to work. And so I could use my carrot out of hand, but I'm expecting him to have at least 1 Mars, so I just go ahead and give a Bonnie instead to freeze it. 1-time freeze, but we can play the carrot on the follow-up turn, and this way we don't lose as important of a body to the Mars. It's still important to play a 5-cost body on 5, even if you know that they have the Mars incoming, just because Mars does take a discard, so you want to get as many cards out of Emu's hand as possible. That is our way to victory, after all, and we are not particularly concerned with being dead, so we can just take this damage freely, even from just a 6k swing. We'll go ahead and swing a 5 here. We can use our Law to get 2 6-cost characters in play, and then also the restand of the Zoro, so that we can get a Bonnie in play too. We'll go ahead and bounce back our Bonnie, though. We may need it for the next turn, and none of our bodies are rested, so we can't swing into them. He's going to have to swing into our leader instead, and maybe he has another Mars, maybe he doesn't. It's really good for us if he doesn't, but we'll just have to wait and see what he ends up doing. And what he ends up doing is playing a Shiri Hoshi. He can go ahead and take a card out of our hand. We just give him this Bonnie. Bonnie doesn't have too much play left in this game. It is just kind of a 5-mana 6k at this point, as freezing a Dawn doesn't matter too much against Emu. And fortunately for us, he does have to just use the rest of his Dawn to swing big into our lead, so of course we do take that one. But from here, we are going to search another Law so that we can put 2 more 6k bodies into play, and then we'll just use the rest of our Dawn to play more Searchers, grab more cards into hand. We do fortunately get the extra Dawn back as well, so we can just go 6 6 6 6 and, or well, 3 6s, and then play a Bonnie Searcher, which will be another pseudo blocker, because in the late game what our plan is going to be is freeze 1 or 2 of his characters and then sit on being a 7k leader to just stall for extra turns while we establish more 10-cost 11ks onto the board. So he is just going to go ahead and get rid of his own blocker. Of course, it was frozen anyway, and we're expecting the 10-cost character to come down. There it is. Go ahead and get Bing Bang Boom Bop, all 5 of the Elders back. He'll swing into one of our bodies, I'm sure, pretty significantly. We'll just go ahead and let it go because we don't want to give 10 trillion cards for it. And additionally, he does have the Mars to pop one of our 5 costs. Of course, it's going to be the carrot. We'll just go ahead and let our character go, though. From here, we can go ahead and use our La Beppo, freeze 1, swing 7 into their lead, and then we can go 6 7 with our 2 Laws here, just to get more cards out of his hand, and maybe take a life if we're lucky. But we'll see. He does have 2 Dawn up, so he could have 2 spells in hand right now, which would be not ideal for us, but he is running low on cards. He just gives us a 2k, though, and then takes the other one. Not too surprising. Going all the way down to 0 cards is not too great for him. He's just going to go 7 into our leader a few times. We can give him some cards. We were never going to die from this position because, you know, it's really hard for him to actually crack a 7k leader with 2 life and a bunch of cards in hand. But it is probably going to be our last turn on the follow-up turn, and from here he is going to be able to kill both of our Laws. There's no way we can defend it with just 1 2k remaining, especially when they get reduced power from the Nazjoro. He doesn't know that, though, and he definitely wants to make sure that both of them die, so he swings pretty big into the first one, and then even bigger into the second one. We let them both go, but we've already got the Hody Jones in hand, and so we're going to go for game here. With only 1 Dawn remaining up, we do know he has 1 spell card, but just a 9 swing will force 2 cards out, and then we can go 7 with leader and then 12. But he actually just ends up taking, and so the 14 is for sure going to get there. And that's going to be the game. Well, those were the games, and wow. I mean, am I crazy here, or does this deck actually seem pretty competent? We have a good answer to some of the more annoying blockers in the format, denying not only their ability to block, but also denying the opponent from ever drawing cards with them. We have a great answer to 10 Beard, and a way to ensure that even if they win the die roll, they won't be able to play the 10 Beard ahead of curve before our answer to it becomes online thanks to the 5-cost Freeze Bonnie. We can stall for time against Emu to the point where we can establish multiple 10k bodies, and then Hody can come down to finish the game once we feel like we can't hold on anymore. And then we also have a decent matchup into Zoro, especially if we win the die roll and gets dropped the first law. In fact, even without a winning die roll, if you see enough law and carrots, you can just lock down their board while building your own. And that's not even mentioning the secret reason I believe a deck like this can be a serious tournament contender. Much like the red-green law leader of old, because you have 16 searchers, you can dig all the way through the deck with just 6 to 7 activations of those searchers, and theoretically that means that from that point on you can know the location of every single card in your deck. Obviously, this type of memorization is uncommon and unlikely to be utilized, but what is very common is remembering the location of a singular key card in the deck and pushing it all the way to the top so that you draw it for turn on the last turn of the game. Like, for example, Hody Jones. Additionally, this may not necessarily be the final version of the list. I think there are possibilities for improvement. This is just kind of what I threw together in the week and a half that I've been playing the deck, and maybe I'm coping, maybe I'm crazy, but maybe, just maybe there's a brittleness to OP13 due to the rigidity of the top decks that can be uniquely exploited by this deck. And I'm willing to be wrong on this one, but I'm putting this leader right here in the can top a regional tier. And you know what? I'm going to try it. Catch me in December making it happen in Fort Worth. Well, maybe. I mean, I might end up taking BY Nami instead. I do still really like that deck too. We'll see what happens. So that's that. What did you think of the deck list? Any tech cards or ratio changes you think could help it perform even better? What leader are you trying to see in the next episode? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe for more. I'm planning to make a new one every single week. That's all for now though. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.